I'm going to share. I didn't really think ahead what I was going to talk about because I'm just going to tell you the truth of my life. It's a harsh truth, but it's a good truth too. So you'll get to hear a little of both sides. I am a survivor of human trafficking and drug addiction and childhood abuse and sexual abuse as well. And can you hear? No, you can't hear me. Could you hear anything you
I
said?
heard a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, some people can't hear me.
Okay.
Just speaking it.
Okay, gotcha. So I'll start over. So I just shared that I'm Wanda, and I am a survivor of sex trafficking, child abuse, sexual abuse. I also was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and I had a rough stint in my life for a long time. I think I started at a very young age experimenting with alcohol and weed around 11 or 12 years old. And so, my parents both drank every day, and it was really hard for me. By the time I was 14, I had been raped and kidnapped by a stranger. I hadn't had sex before, so my views of, I want to just say men, but it was just people altogether. I really hated everyone. I had a lot of hate in my heart, and especially for men, because it was a man that took my virginity in such a horrible way, and I became suicidal, and I left home at 15. And I just want to say that I have a lot of joy in my heart. I don't feel any pain from all those things anymore, because I've learned how to have forgiveness, and I have God in my life. So by the time I was 18 years old, I'll back up just a year. At 17 years old, I was introduced to sex trafficking, and out on the street, and life was really hard for me then. My drug addiction had progressed full blown. I was doing very hard drugs, and I would go back home to mom and dad. Mom and dad were still unhealthy and drinking and partying, and we just couldn't get along. And when I was 18, I kind of started looking around, like, looking at myself and looking at the kids I was in school with, and wondering, like, what are you doing? Why are everybody else has these families, and graduating from high school and going on to college, and what's going on with you? So I tried to have a relationship, but I was so broken, and it just didn't work out. For one, I couldn't stop drinking. I was addicted to alcohol, and so it didn't work out. Life was hard. And it kept getting harder. I was feeding an addiction, and I had to do what I had to do to get what I needed to get to be able to not feel. Because my goal was just to be liberated and not feel. I really didn't want to live anymore, but I was too afraid to die. I can say that. And so, I just kept numbing myself. I'll start using years at this point, because this is a long time ago for me. By the time I was, it was 2003, I became homeless. I did have 2 kids in the middle of this process, where I tried to go ahead and be a stay-at-home mom, but I wasn't in healthy relationships. I did get married. My husband and I were both addicted, and it didn't work out. We fought a lot, and we both ended up homeless downtown and over the Rhine. That was in 2003. And he stayed down there with me for about 6 months, beating the crap out of me, and we were in and out of jail together, and he finally went home. His mother let him come home, and I just didn't have anybody, and I stayed out on the streets for 11 years I was homeless. And you know, I experienced a lot of hell. I'll just say hell. I got into a society down there where I was forced to prostitute and do things that I really didn't want to do, and learn how to survive in that way. I met Scarlett. She came downtown in 2010, I think it was, and she came on this dream van, and they had like chili and shoes. That's what I remember, and I kind of hid behind in the back alleys, and I was too afraid to come out. I knew who Jesus was, and I knew God, and I felt too dirty to come pray with her. But I knew who she was, and so I'm just gonna, cut through all that stuff that happened down there. I was in and out of jail a lot through that process, and in 2012, I was out there with a guy who was in the same position I was. He kind of like a pimp to me. He had robbed a dope boy and he got gunned down with me down there. He was shot in the chest 6 times and murdered. And it wasn't the first time I had experienced seeing that type of thing out there on the streets, because I saw a lot of tragedy. And for some reason, I believe God used that for a way to open a door to start coming in my heart and talking to me, because I started thinking about myself, my life, what matters in my life. I started thinking about my kids and my mom and my family that I hadn't seen all those years or talked to. And so I started talking to God. I was like, God, what is it you want me to do? What time is it for me? That's just what I was thinking. Like, is this my time? And I kept on out there. I was out there running, scared to death. I think I weighed 119 pounds. I was, malnourished. I was dirty. I had sores all over me from head to toe. I was picked, where I was picking at myself. And I said, you know what, God, next time I get locked up, because I knew that was the only way I could stop using drugs, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get out of this mess I'm in. And I don't know what this is going to look like for me. Am I going to just live in a 5x7 cell and have a TV and be able to eat ice cream and just feel safe outside from the world, because I didn't feel safe out there? And that's fine. Maybe I can just say it's my kids to forgive me, and maybe they will, and maybe they won't. I didn't know what that would look like for me. And so that's what happened. I got locked up in 2012, and my journey began. And I connected with Scarlett on that side of my life, and Scarlett has walked by my side through this whole journey, her and the Women of Alabaster ministry. And I started doing all those things that I didn't think I would ever do, and God gave me way more than what I thought I'd ever have in my life. Scarlett taught me how to pray, how to war against the evil spirits out here in the world, and be able to make it through life and be successful. And it's not always been easy. I did have a relapse after 7 years of staying away from the streets, but I didn't stay gone long. And that was in 2019. I went back to school. I was able to get a job, which I didn't think I was going to be able to do. I studied down at the church on McMicken. It's Scarlett's ministry. And I go to church at Church on Fire out in Harrison, Ohio. And so I graduated from Cincinnati State, and I don't know, those were some of the things that I didn't think I'd ever be able to accomplish. Stuff that I had planned early on in life, was able to accomplish, you know, with the help of God. You know, it's about what Jesus, you know, it's all about Jesus. I do work at the Addiction Services Council, and I have the opportunity to plant seeds, you know, and then Jesus does the healing. You know, it's all about when it's His timing. I believe, you know, it's not our timing, it's His timing. And you know, I got really mad at myself when I relapsed and stuff like that. Scarlett never judged me. She did tell me the truth through everything I was doing. She will be honest with us girls. And when we come to her with our problems, and she prays with us through everything. I don't know. I really believe God doesn't bring us this far to leave us. You know, he wasn't finished with me yet. I never did, like Kim shared, I never did get mad at God for everything that I went through. It was all for a purpose, you know, to be able to help someone else. And I get to go down in the ministry, and when the women come in there and they talk to me, and I start talking to them, and I share with them that I've been where they are, that I was homeless at one time, I was dirty, I was starving to death. I was out there walking until my feet were wet and dry again, and felt like my eyes were froze open in the wintertime. You know, and I'm able to look back now and wonder, like, how did I survive that? And that kind of helps me when I get upset seeing those women out there, because I was like, he protected me. He was there with me every step of the way out there, even though I didn't know he was. Because I thought, is this it? And is this how I'm gonna end up out there? You know, am I gonna die like this? But it just wasn't the end for me. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for Scarlett and her ministry, and the ladies that just go in and love on the women like that nobody else really cares about. They walk down the street, and a lot of people will cross the street and go the other way just to avoid them because of how they look. But that's how I was. That was me, and he's completely transformed my life. I just had, my grandson was born Friday, you know, the way my life, and I got to be there for that. He's perfect. And I have two other granddaughters, Faith and Justice, and Faith is 9 and Justice is 3, and you know, I get to pick them up and take them to church with me and stuff, and I have a normal life now. I have a loving fiance that he knows I've had trauma, and he's very understanding and kind, and he's just a good man. I have been through the experience of the bad relationships, but those were all lessons, you know, that I got to experience. Scarlett and the ministry have retreats for the survivors. We meet once a year, and we go on a retreat. We went out to my sponsor's farm this year out in Damascus, Kentucky, and just spent the weekend together doing activities, you know, surrounded, you know, around God, and just a getaway from life, because when, you know, life gets so busy for us, and it's just our time together, and we do Bible study together, and I don't know, it's just such a blessing. I'm overwhelmed with joy and just feel so surreal. On my way out here, I was talking to Scarlett, and as soon as I started talking to her, I was laughing and crying at the same time. I just was, you know, the Lord just wrecked me, and I'm so grateful that I get to come here and be able to talk with you ladies, and I love you. We come from royal blood, from a king of the Most High, and he loves you, and he wants you to have joy, and you know. And another thing Scarlett and I both do, we go into the jail. I go into the care pod in the Hamilton County Justice Center, and I also get to sit down with those inmates. I do the men and the women side in the care pod, and I don't care, and they love when I come in, you know, and just let them know how much that they're loved, and that they can identify with me, what that's like, because I had experienced that so many times. I was able to get my record expunged, and I did Friday, my daughter was in labor, and I did my last day on my CDCA where my daughter was given in labor, so I set the phone over there, and I was going in and out of that at the same time, and I was using another phone to take pictures of the baby being born, and I thought, oh no, devil, you're not distracting me from accomplishing things, we're just gonna take care of it all. That's a good thing that you learn from going from that lifestyle to this lifestyle. You can multitask really good. I don't know, I think I might start rambling, but there's so many different blessings and things that I can share with you about my life, and if you have any questions at all, I'd love to sit and talk with you or pray with you or anything that you'd like, just let me know. Thank you.